Hi guys, and welcome back to Full House Sport. Here with myself, Charlie. A reminder before the video starts, the small print, you've heard it all before. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel, and also give us a follow on Instagram and other social media platforms such as X, TikTok and Facebook. Our website is coming very soon with news and views from around the sporting world to help you stay on the ball. Right, as I touched on in my video on Lewis Crocker versus Paddy Donovan, this weekend is a massive weekend of sport. Actually, as well, I realised in the Crocker Donovan video, I missed the St Ledger off, which, for those that don't know, I'm a massive horse racing fan. It's the last classic of the year. There's some obviously the Derby winner, Lambourne's running, Scandinavia's running as well. That's a really nice horse by O'Brien. But less on that, or well, more on that later on, because the one big event, I think the biggest event out of all of them happening on Saturday is the super fight, between Saul Canelo Alvarez, 4-weight world champion, Mexican hero, and Terence Crawford, also a 4-weight world champion. It's just, for me, I think the fight of the decade. I think it's a real throwback to the days of sort of when Leonard and Sugar Ray Leonard and Roberto Duran were stepping up to face guys like Marvin Hagler and Thomas Hearn, who are much bigger than them. It's a bit of a throwback to that, which is what you want to see in boxing. You want to see guys taking risks. Obviously, they want to get paid, but taking risks for legacy as well. And I think Terence Crawford and Saul Canelo Alvarez are both doing that on Saturday night. You've got in one corner, you've got Canelo, who started off at the age of 15. I've got to recommend, by the way, that just quickly on a side note, the Netflix documentary on it. It's fantastic. I think it's called Countdown. It's a throwback to the HBO 24/7 documentaries they used to do. They were brilliant. I used to love them. And that's a real throwback to that. I think it's been really well put together. I've actually not been that impressed with the promotion of the fight apart from that, I'll be honest with you. But like I say, it's been good to have, Netflix, a massive streamer, put some investment into boxing. Like I say, in one corner you've got Canelo Alvarez, started out at 15, 4-weight world champion, has faced pretty much all of the greats of both this era and the last era. I mean, you look at his resume, Floyd Mayweather, Gennady Golovkin, they're the two that stand out. But then that's not even revealing the others. Serhii Kovalev, Dmitry Bivol, Danny Jacobs, Shane Mosley, Austin Trout, Miguel Cotto, all these guys that he's faced off against, Caleb Plant, Billy Joe Saunders. The list goes on and on. And he has really secured himself as a legend, I think, in many people's eyes. I don't think he necessarily has to win this fight to secure that. But if he loses this fight, I think it massively tarnishes his legacy. Crawford started out, I remember when Terence Crawford fought Ricky Burns over here. He started out as a lightweight. He started out in the 135 pound division. Canelo Alvarez is naturally a bigger guy than him. And Crawford obviously went through the lightweight division, went through the super lightweight division, went through the welterweight division. Again, I feel like he hasn't really got the credit he deserves, Crawford, for what has been a career of, an undefeated career. And a career where really he's looked levels above everyone he's been in the ring with. Sean Porter, Errol Spence, two massive names of what was a fantastic era of welterweights. And he looked a level above them. There's others on his resume, Kell Brook. I know there's maybe a slight asterisk to that one. This was a Kell Brook after the Golovkin fight and after the Errol Spence fight, actually. But, Crawford, he beat Amir Khan, Julius Indongo, Victor Postal, and Yuri Gamboa. That's one of my favourite fights, I think, I've watched ever. I love that fight. You had Gamboa, the Cuban gold medalist, thought nothing like a Cuban in that fight. And Crawford picked him off. It was a star-making performance. That was down at lightweight. So to think that he's fought Yuri Gamboa and is now fighting Canelo it's just bonkers, really. It's a fight that even me as a massive boxing fan did not see coming. I think, it was rumoured, it was talked about. When Crawford beat Spence, it was sort of talks of, well, where does he go next? Does he go up in weight? There's still big fights for him. Does he fight Boots Ennis? For Canelo, I think as well, there's been a bit of an element of that. He lost to Dmitry Bivol, and then it was a bit like, well, where does he go now? Does he take on Bivol in a rematch? He took on William School. It wasn't a great fight, I think it's fair to say. As for a prediction, there's so many factors. like I say, and that was a nice little segue because Canelo didn't look great in his last fight against William Skull. I mean, Skull was really hard to hit. He fought stereotypical Cuban style, hit and not get hit, was more interested in scoring points than actually standing and trading with Canelo or standing or potentially looking to land big on him. It was very tippy-tappy, and there's been a lot of jokes made about it that, you know, he was going running and he was more like an athlete than he was a boxer. I don't know how much you can read into that performance. I think Canelo's definitely slowed. Naturally, he would slow when you look at how many fights he's had over his career. And like I say, the resume he's got, the guys he's fought, it's naturally that he will slow down. You know, he started boxing professionally at 15, 16. And since then, since the age of 20, when he beat Matthew Hatton, has known nothing but world title fights. That's a lot to put your body through. Crawford, although the Spence and Porter wins have been, you know, later on in his career, and that's why I'm sort of leaning towards Terence Crawford. He's not took as much punishment. Arguably faced a lesser level of competition. I think it's fair to say he has faced a lesser level of competition, although recently has stepped it up and, like I say, still at levels above them. So I don't think that's an argument that can be put against him. I saw the photos coming out of his camp the other day, Crawford. He looks huge, really big. He looks bulky, muscular. Like I say, he looks like a guy who's put on some serious muscle with the weight gain, not just piled it on here, there and everywhere. It looks to be a real sort of scientific approach. I think there's so many angles you can look at this fight, and there's so many points that's been made. You know, you listen even to the experts. You listen, one expert, one ex-professional will say, oh, well, Canelo's going to win because if Canelo hits him, Crawford's never felt power like that, which is a massive factor in the fight. We don't know how Crawford's going to react if he gets tagged. I can't look past Crawford as well for another reason, because Canelo has historically struggled with boxers, and that sounds stupid, but what I mean is those with a high boxing IQ, whether that's Dmitry Bivol, who has that Soviet in and out style, whether that's obviously, we saw, I know Mayweather, the fight, Mayweather's Mayweather, but the way Mayweather just dismantled him. I know he was younger than Canelo. Golovkin as well, who, you know, as much as we know him as a power puncher, was also a really good boxer. He'd won an Olympic silver medal. Canelo struggled with him. And the fight as well that he struggled with, obviously the Skull one, but as well, I remember him struggling against Erislandy Lara, who was, again, another Cuban who wasn't after engaging with him toe-to-toe, but he seemed to struggle in that fight as well. And I know those were fights that were 10 years ago, the Mayweather and Lara ones, and he's learnt a lot. But I think even you look at the Billy Joe Saunders fight, where up until the eye injury, Billy Joe Saunders was boxing really well and boxing quite confidently. Obviously, people will say, yeah, but that's an example of why Crawford won't win this fight, because Billy Joe Saunders was outboxing him, Crawford landed big, and he broke his eye socket. But I just think Crawford has took less punishment. He looks like he's done the weight right. And I think Canelo's vulnerable to being outboxed by a guy with such a high boxing IQ. I don't buy into this Crawford stopping him. I don't think that's going to happen. Canelo's never shown any signs of even really being hurt in a fight. I cannot see Terence Crawford, who started off at lightweight, I cannot see him stopping Canelo. But I do think Crawford could outpoint him. A close, unanimous decision would be my prediction. Like I say, it's the biggest fight in boxing. It's the biggest fight of the decade. For me, it's bigger than Fury Usyk. It's bigger than any of these heavyweight fights we've seen in the last few years because of the build-up to it, because it's two generational greats. And I think the winner of this is the greatest of their era, and they both know that. And I think as well, the winner of this probably will retire. There's nothing really left for them to do, certainly in Crawford's case. But we'll have to wait and see. Like I say, please give us a follow on social media. Let us know what you guys think. My final prediction is Crawford by unanimous decision. Close. I think he'll have hairy moments, but I think he'll survive. Like I said, let us know what you guys think. And as always, thanks for watching. Thank you.